Welcome to Gapology Radio Podcast with authors Mark Tinas and Brian Brockhoff. We can be reached at gapology.org, and our books can be found at amazon.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Gapology Radio. This is a special week for us. We're excited to have a good friend of ours on the show. His name is Chris Baker. Chris is an inspirational leader with over 30 years of experience on both sides of the Atlantic. Originally from the UK, Chris now lives in Florida and is a proud recipient of the prestigious Walt Disney Legacy Award from his time as a leader with Disney. Chris has built his career on a foundation of engaging team members to provide exceptional customer service, which in turn generates high-class business results. Let's go ahead and give Chris a call and see what he's up to.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Chris. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you. Going well. Yes, how's things with you?
Good. Everything's great here. Hey, I'm so excited for the show. I know we've talked about getting you on for a while, and I appreciate your taking some time to come on with us.
No, I'm excited too. It's as you say, we've been talking about it for a while, so it's good to get on and chat. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So just to fill the audience in, for those of you who haven't worked with Chris, he's been doing some work with our Gapology team, teaching both our signature Gapology program as well as our new Speed of Purpose workshop masterclass. But the big exciting news is that he has a new book that he just released called The 10 Steps to Freedom, which we all would like a little freedom, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's we'll get into all that here in a bit. Chris, why don't you kind of start off by filling everyone in on yourself, your background, work history, that kind of thing. Just give our listeners a little context of where you've been, what you've been doing, and all that.
Perfect. Can do. Pleasure. So originally I'm from England. People may well have picked up the accent, hopefully. So I came over to America right at the end of 2010, so just coming up 9 years ago. And in England, basically my career was in the retail automotive industry. So I started as a salesman and then rose through the leadership and managerial ranks to eventually be general manager of car dealerships. And so through that journey, I learned all about sales, learned all about customer service, learned about identifying gaps, which is why Gapology and Speed of Purpose are so, I'm so attuned to those. We'll get into that later. And then when I came over to the US, I had 7 years as a leader and senior leader manager for the Walt Disney Company here in Orlando, which is where I live now. And so I again employed the principles there, not knowing about Gapology at the time, but I was actually following the Gapology process and the Speed of Purpose process. And it brought me to a stage where I wanted to go and teach more and show more and share more with other people and help individuals and businesses become the best version of themselves, really, and maximize the potential that exists within themselves and within their business.
One of the things that I'll say is, the first time we talked, I really was able to tap into your passion for purpose, passion for, doing the right thing and just really being a really good person. And, I really value that. So, I was really excited to have you, as part of our team. Why don't we talk a little bit about your book? So, there's a lot in there that really ties to what we do, at Gapology, specifically to even like IMBAR. There's a lot in there around that and what we've developed with our new Speed of Purpose program. Can you share what your book's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called 10 Steps to Freedom. And again, that's probably fairly generic, because what is freedom? And freedom to everybody is different things, right? We're all unique individual beings. So what freedom means to me might be different to other people. But basically, I sort of bookend the book, so as to speak, with a quote that I've lived by for a little while. One that I created, and it says, "Are you happy living under the average limitations imposed on you by other people, or are you ready to rise to the greater expectations of your inner self?" So that really is a reference to purpose. Is what are you here for? Why do you exist? What makes you happy? And are you living that every day? And so I started writing this book a little over a year ago. And then I stopped and I was like, people aren't going to want to hear it from me, and add those sort of self-doubts that we all get from time to time. But then in my couple of my coaching clients were like, no, Chris, you really need to finish telling your story and you need to do it. So I finished writing the book. And basically it goes through 10 steps that I believe are essential in taking you from where you are now to where you want to be. So it's that transformation journey. And what I do is I use my experience, I use my life stories, and I interweave them with Walt Disney stories so people can relate to that. And to be honest, Brian, I was a little bit nervous about doing it because there's some stories in there about myself and my past that, if I'm totally honest, that I'm not particularly proud of, but it happened. And so I wanted to show people that you can have experiences, and as long as you learn from them and you adapt and you change what you're doing because you realize that you've made a mistake, or you can get better and you can improve, that everybody can improve the situation that they're in, and they control their destiny. And so that's what I wanted to do, and that's what people have been coming back to me and saying, wow, that's really inspirational, because I didn't want people to look at me and put me on a pedestal and just say, you've had a charmed life, because I haven't. And you've got the book, you've been reading the book, I haven't had a charmed life. But we can all overcome the challenges that we face, and I believe that they make us stronger. So that was why I really wanted to write the book and share my story.
Yeah, that's cool. I think the interesting thing is, we all have things that we're not proud of in our past. And I don't know if we're taught this or if it's just kind of a defense mechanism, but a lot of us, hide that. We put it away in the closet and we pretend like it doesn't exist. But, I admire you for putting it out there for everyone to read. But I think that's good. Being real, being authentic is good, because it's part of who we are. It's part of what created us and where we're at today. So that's really admirable.
Right. Yeah, and I think, Brian, this applies, as I did it. I mean, this was about my personal journey, but it's not really a story about me. It's me being a guide to people that are reading it. Mm-hmm. And it can apply to individuals, but it also applies to business, which again is why it ties so nicely with Gapology and Speed of Purpose. And I think you're right in what you say, is that we are conditioned to believe that failure and mistakes is bad. Right? And if we do that, we shouldn't tell people that we've done that. We should brush it under the carpet, because then it goes away. No, it just festers, and then sooner or later you lift the carpet up and it comes up and it's multiplied. So failure is actually good, as long as you learn from it, right? And then apply the learnings to make a difference in your life, in your business. Every business makes mistakes, but if we review those mistakes and then say, what did we learn, and then we move forward. Effectively, that's like closing those gaps, right? The knowledge gap and the importance gap, and then creating new actions to close the actions gap. So it fits in perfectly with what you and Mark created, and what I love teaching now as well.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking that a lot of times, we don't call failures.
Yeah.
And in life we have failures. I think we need to be real with that. We say, it was a bump in the road, or it was whatever, we make up some other term for it. I think, at some point we need to really just be honest with ourselves. Our identity, our future, our results are all formed by the things that we do, the choices that we make. So either we can let the past form that, or we can choose to make the choices that can help us design the future that we really want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's dig into the book a little bit more. And I don't want you to give away all the secrets, of course, but can you give us a little bit more of the synopsis on, what the tips are at a high level, and perhaps like what are the top couple to really focus on?
So the three things, or the three stages, if you like, in the process that I outline are purpose, vision, and strategy. So I believe that we all have a purpose, and again, whether that's individuals, whether that's companies, everybody has a purpose, right? So we need to identify what that purpose is. Under purpose, we also then need to be responsible for the decisions we make and the actions we take. We own those. We have those choices every day, and we make those decisions. Well, if you have a purpose, your decisions will be made based on your purpose, right? So they're more likely to be the right ones. If you don't have a purpose, then your decisions are pretty much hit and miss, right? You don't know whether it's the right or wrong. So then we move into creating a vision for the future that we want to live. Again, whether it's an individual, whether it's a business. And then realizing that we all have untapped potential, right? And again, as individuals, we have that. It's said that we use probably about 10% of our potential. So therefore, the good news is that we've got 90% still to go. The chances of us maxing out on our potential are slim to non-existent. So, we can always keep improving. And that goes for, organizations as well. So we need to release that untapped potential and release it on a consistent basis. That leads us to be able to live our life on purpose rather than by default. And then I'll move into talking about the fact that we're not alone, right? And you cannot achieve anything of significance on your own. You need other people. And so it's how do you tap into those people? How do you choose the people that you've got in there from an organization's point of view? How do you empower your people and develop your people? And knowing that there is going to be prices to pay along the way, there's sacrifices that we have to make, and we need to be prepared to make those sacrifices and pay that price in order to achieve the vision that we've set. But you can't do that, or you won't do that, unless you've got a clearly defined purpose. And through all of this, understanding that we have to be persistent in our actions. So this all comes into the strategy side of it. We have to be persistent in our actions, because when the going gets tough, we need to get tougher and push harder,
right.
Not give up and go and look for the easier option, right? The path of least resistance, which is the natural thing to do. And ultimately, what I'm looking for everybody to do, and all the businesses to do, is to do more of what they love to do, right? To stay within their strength zones, and that makes everybody happier. That produces better results if you're in your strength zone. And the last thing is building a legacy that we're proud of. Again, as an individual, as a company, because then you're passing that on to the next generation, right? And they will then take it and they'll multiply and they'll build on the work that you've done. So that's really the sort of the 10 steps as we go through. And again, to say they can apply to individuals, they can apply to organizations. It's not rocket science, as they say. It's simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy, because there's a lot of work that needs doing to actually work through that process.
Right. That's something that we've always said with Gapology is, once people hear it and go through it, it feels like it's simple, like it's always been there, like we should know this stuff. But it's the application part that's so difficult.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really love how you laid it out. And, as I was going through the book, it just, everything flowed very well. And I just loved how everything kind of fits together. One of the things I really liked was that when you were talking about strength zones, I think, so often we're, and maybe this is another one of those things we're hardwired, but, we focus on those negative things and the things that we're really bad at, and, those opportunity areas that we have to grow, versus trying to strengthen those areas that we're more naturally inclined to do.
And that applies, again, as individuals, it applies as business, right? I know through performance reviews, they're a big contentious point, right? Because we do performance reviews, the annual reviews, or monthly one-on-ones, whatever we're doing. In my experience, most of those spend 90% of the time talking about what you need to improve and 10% about what you're doing good at.
Right.
I flip that. Right? I talk 10% about what you can improve and 90% about what you're good at, because that's your strength, and that's what we need to tap into to keep you as an engaged employee, to develop you. And the things that you're not good at, well, let's find somebody else that's good at that's their strength, and actually promote them in that area, so get them to do it.
Right.
And again, as an individual, that's what we should be doing ourselves, where we're conditioned the reverse. We're conditioned to work on our weaknesses. Well, why? Because there are weaknesses. Let's work on our strengths and maybe some of our opportunities, and we can outsource or delegate our weaknesses to other people that are strong in those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. you mentioned legacy, and I like that, and especially when you think about Walt Disney and the legacy that he left, and how the corporation's still creating legacy. Tell me a little bit about your time at Disney. How was it working there in the happiest place on earth?
Yeah, I mean, in my 7 years there in the leadership style, I was always working what we call sort of backstage. So I was always I wasn't guest facing, in other words, and so it was a real business sort of area. But we still tried to maintain that legacy of Walt Disney about the fact that we've all got a part to play in the show. That's why all Disney employees are called cast members, because they're a cast member of the show. And there's Disney speak is all that. So, if the cast members that are on stage don't have uniforms, they have costumes because they're on stage. And on stage and backstage, again, all theatrical entertainment style terms. And I think the legacy is there is what Walt Disney wanted to do was create somewhere that people could go and basically forget about the outside world and just have fun. And have somewhere where it immersed people into the story, so they became part of the story. And it says that sort of adults, when they get to Magic Kingdom and walk down Main Street USA, they become 5-year-olds, and people scoff at it. When you do it, it's true, you do. And the adults walk around with like Mickey ears on, and they've got all their Mickey Mouse shirts and so on. And it's true, you do that. And why is that important? Well, because it's making you happy. And so that legacy that Walt Disney wanted to create, he created. I was fortunate enough to be nominated and awarded the Walt Disney Legacy Award, which again I talk about that with organisations, not because I'm boasting. I'm not boasting at all about what I did, but because it's something that they could do with their employees to recognise them that doesn't cost any money, because I didn't get any financial reward or anything like that. I just got a different colour name tag. But it's the recognition that came from my peers that nominated me for that award for demonstrating the attributes of Walt Disney, which was dream, create, and inspire. So those attributes can be put into any organisation. If you get that culture that permeates throughout the organisation, and it starts with that purpose. Walt Disney's purpose was we create happiness. That was it, straightforward. We create happiness. And so every department that I ran, even though we weren't guest facing, I was like, we are a part in the show. We're a cog in the wheel. We create happiness. You may not see the effect of it, but know the effect that you have on it. And without us, that end result wouldn't happen. So then everybody sort of understands, and we would reinforce what Walt Disney was about. And it worked.
It's just amazing how just such a simple statement can really drive the entire engine of that company. Everything that they do is driven around that purpose statement. I think that's amazing. Yeah. So, we talked a lot about purpose and speed of purpose and that kind of thing. One of the things in your book that I know you wrote, it was maybe a purpose statement. I forget how you phrased it, but it was add value to other people so that they can become the best version of themselves. And I really love that. That really ties to what we established at Gapology as our purpose is really helping leaders achieve their greatest potential. And I just see how they're so linked. But then there's something else that you put in there, which is really the purpose to your efforts around, ensuring that every child can have a college education, regardless of finances. Yes. Can you share a little bit about that, where it came from?
Yeah. So the statement, it was basically, before I even knew about the speed of purpose, right, it was writing a purpose statement. So that, again, just says that we were meant to work together.
Oh, for sure.
But I took that process from Simon Sinek and the Find Your Why, and it's about what's the contribution you want to have and the impact you want it, or the contribution you want to make and the impact you want it to have. And so it's designed to be generic, that sort of purpose statement, because it needs to be able to, as we say in Speed of Purpose, it needs to be able to be wrapped around everything we do. So it can't be specific, it needs to be generic. And then affording the children the ability to have college education regardless of finances is more my vision, not my dream. that's my overarching dream, that I want to be able to develop future leaders. And so how do I do that? Well, I do that by working with the youth, because the youth are the ones that are going to be the future leaders. And again, there's an enormous amount of untapped potential within that youth that can't afford to go to college because it's very expensive. And sometimes, and we're not sometimes, always, we're not conditioned to think about what is our purpose. We're conditioned to think you just need to go and get a job, right? Go and get a safe and a steady job that is going to pay you a regular paycheck, and don't be too ambitious, don't get ideas above your station, and all these things that are ingrained into us when we're in those teenage years. Well, I want to help our youth to break away from that, right, and think without those boundaries and say, what is it that you truly want to do? And again, this is all in this process of getting them into their strength zones and helping them to find their purpose. Because if they then enter they take the college degree that they want to take, that is going to get them the job that they want to get, rather than just any degree. But then they go into the workplace with that attitude of understanding their purpose, knowing what they're wanting to do, knowing the sort of Gapology and Speed Purpose methodology that they're applying naturally in their life. The employers get better employees that are more engaged and more ambitious, so everybody wins. And it has to start with the youth, or ultimately it will come from the youth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the grand vision. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's really amazing that you're doing that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, my kids, and one of the things that I always told them is, find something that you love doing and do that. Yeah. Figure out a way to make that your career, or at least an element of your career. Figure that out. Right. And I think, the old adage is, if you do your passion, you'll never work a day in your life. I actually think that's probably opposite. I think you'll actually work harder, because that is something that you care about and you're passionate about. So, you'll actually probably work harder, but it'll be something that you enjoy doing. At the end of your life, you're going to look back and go, you know what, I did that. Yeah. And be really proud of all that.
Absolutely. You work harder, but it doesn't feel like work because you love doing it.
Yep.
And that again, when you're in your strength zones, you'll work harder because you love doing that. Whereas if you're in your weaker zones, you dread going to work. You dread doing that task, and therefore you're less effective. So the whole thing, it just leads towards doing more of what you love, staying in that strength zones, and everybody will win because you'll be producing better results.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. So I just kind of want to circle back to some of the stuff that you've done with us here, at Gapology. As we mentioned at the beginning, you've done some of the workshops with us. Can you just kind of share, how that experience has been teaching some of the Gapology pieces?
Yeah, absolutely. And Gapology for me is I could really associate with it, because those, again, as you mentioned earlier, it's simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy, right? Those three gaps of the knowledge gap, the importance gap, and the action gap, and who owns those gaps, and the fact that they have to be closed in that order is so, it's groundbreaking in a way, because I don't think anybody's ever looked at it that way. But in teaching it and going through it with the audiences we've had, you can see the light bulbs going off in their minds and going, oh, well, yeah, we could do that. And the fact that they interact in that, and they come out at the end with basically a plan of action, is phenomenal. And I've had a couple of follow-up sort of emails and so on from the leaders that did that, and one of them even emailed me like a screenshot from a meeting that they were in, saying, hey, look at this, what we're doing this, and we're applying the Gapology principles. And I was like, yes, that's fantastic.
That's great.
And the same with Speed of Purpose, with that's obviously the book that's coming out in the fall, I believe, right? And that to me, Gapology identifies and closes the gaps, but Speed of Purpose needs to be used in association with Gapology, because Speed of Purpose is what will keep the momentum going forward, so to keep those gaps closed, because that's the reason behind everything. That, to me, that's the core. So anybody doing Gapology needs to do Speed of Purpose as well, and vice versa. Probably I think Speed of Purpose comes before Gapology, but it doesn't matter if they've already done Gapology. I definitely highly recommend that people do Speed of Purpose as well to actually, at the end of that workshop, they come out with a purpose statement for their area. And the clients that we've done that with have come back, and I had an email from one today saying that they've now applied. They've got a general sort of purpose statement for their sort of department, if you like, or their division. But then each area within that division has sort of identified their own purpose statement that aligns with the overarching purpose statement. And so again, they're working through that, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah.
So I just want to try to kind of wrap this up. First of all, I'm super glad that all these books, all these concepts, the workshops that we teach, I'm glad that they're all aligned and they're all connected. And it's really exciting to see how your book fits into all of this as well. So before we go, can you just kind of share with everyone where they can find your book, your website, social, all that?
Absolutely. They can buy it on Amazon.com. It's available in paperback and Kindle. And so it's called 10 Steps to Freedom, and the 10 and the 2 are the number 10 and the number 2. So 10 Steps to Freedom, and it's Chris J. Baker. All right, so they can search it there, or they can go to my website, all the W's, chris-j-baker.com, and you can order it from there. And then on social media, again, my name, Chris Baker, and then I've also got a group called Leadership Excellence with Chris Baker that I share a lot of information there. But they can buy the book from my website or from Amazon.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all the links in our podcast so they can click on those as well. And I definitely want to invite everyone to go out there and grab a copy. Chris, thanks again for being on the show this week. It's definitely a special treat for me, and I know that our fans will love this episode too. So we'll look for another opportunity to get you on the show again down the road.
Perfect. My pleasure. Pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yep.
All right.
We'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Okay, that'll do it from here. Head on over to our website, gapology.org, for more information on Gapology and IMBAR. And head over to Chris's website. Check out his new book, 10 Steps to Freedom. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.
This has been a Gapology production. Visit us at gapology.org.